Hello and welcome to Green Pass Gaming's Midweek Catch-up. I am your host, Flap, and tonight, as you can probably see, we have the GPG Crew in its entirety, which has been the first time in quite a while, I believe, from memory. So it's fantastic to have us all together. We'll do some introductions in a second, but on tonight's show, we've obviously had quite a week in the world of Xbox and gaming with two showcases, quite some surprises in there as well, and some that weren't quite surprises. We obviously did our predictions show about a week ago, probably 2 weeks ago now actually, and we're going to run through some of the things that we got right and wrong. We'll also run through some of the trailers as well in the background as we're discussing some of the things. But before we do that, let's get round to everyone. And Puxley, we'll start with you, my friend. It's been a while. Welcome back to the show. How's things?
Yes, thank you very much. It feels like it's been forever, when really I think it's only been maybe 2 shows missed. Although saying that, I know you guys did a number of Sunday shows, then you was on Boxing Burger show as well. So it feels like I've been away for a good amount of time, but I don't think it's actually been that long. But no, I've been very well, thank you. Been away on holiday or vacation, depending where you're from. But I have been keeping up with the news as much as I can. I did watch the showcases, I say late, but not quite live, but I was about an hour out by that point. But I did manage to catch up and listen to most of the news. I didn't manage to get much time to watch the extended showcase myself, but I have been catching up on just general articles talking about it and some of the stuff that was on there. But no, great to be back, and I'm really looking forward to discussing it all.
Fantastic. Yeah, it was good to have you back. And yeah, we'll sink our teeth into this. I know many shows have done the previews and the reviews of the shows and stuff, but it's kind of our turn now. We'll put our different spin on it like we tend to. Luke, we'll come to you next, my friend. All good. You was on Stubbs show yesterday. You've obviously, and us three were also on Box and Burgers show, me, yourself, and Scott. But I guess, have you had a chance to see the showcases another time round?
Yeah, very well, thanks. Yeah, I have. I've watched. I've at least watched the Xbox showcase once more in optimal quality.
Yes. Makes a difference.
So yes, it does. It does make a difference. So I watched that. I watched the Capcom showcase that was on the other day, as well, and that's been about it, really. So,
are you a happy bunny after the Capcom showcase?
Yeah, I mean, it was better than the one last year, which was really bad. So this one, talked a bit more about Resident Evil 4, a very brief snippet of gameplay for that. Probably the most exciting thing actually was the village stuff.
Yes.
So, a third-person mode, which is pretty amazing, and the big story DLC for it as well, which is also third-person. So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, and that's coming. When's that coming? We've got a date for it as well. I forgot to write that down.
Is it
October?
It's October, yeah. I think it's October.
Fantastic. Yes, no, I'm looking forward to it. I really enjoyed the village. I don't know about the third person. I don't know. Are you going to play all through again in third person, or are you just going to play the DLC in third person?
I'll just play the DLC. Yeah. But I think it's cool for people who haven't jumped in.
Absolutely.
More classic experience.
There's always that thing, isn't there, where sometimes people that don't jump into games first off, they kind of miss the crest of the wave, but actually they do okay out of it because it's all been patched and they get the DLC and the full experience, as it were. But
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, excellent. Cool. And Scott, we'll move on to yourself, my friend. How the devil are you? And have you managed to watch the showcases again?
Yeah, evening, Flap. I had the opportunity to watch it again. I actually watched it the following morning because surprisingly, I think I was the one that was maybe the most down on the show, and the reaction from the general public was actually a little bit more positive. And normally it's the other way around. Normally I'm more positive than the general feeling of the community, which was a really unusual and strange position to be in. So I rewatched the entire show on the Thursday morning. The Friday morning because I was really Monday morning. Apologies, because I was really keen just to reevaluate my perspective. So I watched it again and enjoyed the show. It didn't actually change my opinions too much. I was pretty comfortable with my position even after rewatching it. But there was a lot of good stuff in there. So I'm looking forward to digging a little bit deeper tonight.
Yeah, no, fantastic. And that is certainly what we're about to do. And like I say, I've got all of the VODs downloaded like we did last time. So we haven't necessarily got to go through them one at a time, but perhaps as we're talking about particular games, we can just flash that up on the screen and talk over it. But I think we need to say thank you to the chat and welcome to the chat first off. So thank you everyone for being. Got Miss Echo Ash Games. TJ's in the chat as well, who was on the show with on Box and Burgers post showcase show on Sunday. So it's good to see you in the chat, my friend. Excellent. Well, let's get straight into this then, shall we? Because, like I said, I think it was 2 weeks ago we did the predictions show. And we actually came up with this list of predictions. And I think we felt pretty confident at the time. And I've got to be honest, on reflection, I think we did all right, actually. I think, you know what, had we have known that the showcase was only going to show games within the next 12 months, this would obviously have looked very different. So, you know, obviously bearing in mind we didn't know that it was only going to be the showcase of the games over the next 12 months. So I think we would have changed a fair few on here, perhaps. But yeah, so what do you make of it, Scott? We'll start with you first, mate. You kind of put this list together. You've scored it as well, haven't you? How did we get on?
Yeah, it's funny looking back because you're right, Flap. Had we known what they were going to show, we definitely would have done a few things differently, because there's a few project games or games that we know are a little bit further out that we just wouldn't have said were there. Obviously, there's a whole load of things there that we just couldn't have predicted anyway. You know, a lot of the third party stuff. But I think overall we did okay. So if my maths hasn't failed me too much, well, the way I've tallied it up is we got 30 correct. Obviously, the majority of them being the absolutely nuts. We got 12 incorrect, and then we got a little bit of a maybe that we might need to have a little bit of a chat about. I'd be curious to get people's thoughts. We've kind of excluded the maybes because we didn't think either way. And to be fair too, the maybes did show up in the extended showcase. Well, sorry, one of them showed up in the extended showcase. The other one showed up in the actual showcase in Indus. Yes. And then the Keeley has it. We got 2 of them correct, and I guess 3 of them are remain to be seen. So yes. I think we did all right overall. Yeah. You know, a net 18 plus. I think that's not too bad.
Yeah, no, I'm quite pleased with that. And like I say, had we had known there was a net that was going to catch, you know, the next 12 months, like I say, it would have been pretty different. Luke, had we have known that, I'm guessing there's quite a few in there we would have probably taken out. I'm guessing, you know, things like Wolfenstein 3, perhaps Contraband. Anything else obvious in there that we would have taken out had we have known it was only a 12-month window?
Just having a look, really. I mean, I think Project Midnight, probably, you know, a new coalition project. There's a couple here and there, but for the most part, you know, I think we did all right. We did okay, but yeah, it was. The thing is, all our predictions were just instantly, you know, down the pan, so to speak. To some extent, as soon as the first minute of the show came on and they announced that it was only 12 months.
Yes.
So, and we could not, nobody accounted for that, you know, because how could you? You couldn't predict it. So, yeah, it suffered as a result. But actually, even then, I still think we've done pretty well. Yeah, so, you know, just call us Nostradamus, really. Because we've done pretty well there.
Out of the absolutely nots, out of this whole swathe of absolutely nots, the only one we got wrong was Persona. And to be honest, you know, I don't think anyone put up much of a fight for that, did they? So, we did okay. And obviously the thing that the showcase did do, that again, like you say, we couldn't ever have predicted, was all of the stuff that's brand new. I mean, we didn't even have Silk Song on here. I mean, why would we? And lots of games. I tell you what, we didn't have on here is a Plague Tale Requiem. We should have had that on there, really, shouldn't we? I don't know why or how that slipped through.
I think that was just when we put the list together. It was we already had however many's on there, and it was bloody hard to think of what could have been there. But so we would have had that as a definitely. So we've cost ourselves a point there as well, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I think Scorn was probably another relatively obvious one that we should have put on there but didn't. But there we go. Okay, Pucks. Well, Scott, Luke, and I have voiced our opinions of Starfield and Redfall already, but we've not heard yourself. So, let's start off with Redfall, shall we? What was your impressions of that?
You know what? I know when I first saw it, I remember saying on that previous show when it was first announced many months ago that, you know, another Left 4 Dead clone, effectively 4-player co-op zombie shooter type thing. Wasn't sure if it was going to be up my alley, but the more I was watching it, especially as an opening, dare I say, trailer, like a whole massive gameplay reel of it and introducing the characters and what else is going on, I was actually quite taken by it in a way. Like I felt like the writing of the characters was quite interesting and the different abilities felt a little bit okay, I guess, a bit same old, kind of said it all before, but that's not a bad thing. It really took me actually the more I was watching it, and I think graphically as well, I was quite impressed with it. I know it's arguably nothing like too special, but in terms of like the lighting and stuff, it just looked more, dare I say, next gen. It's a bit more modern than some of the more older school lighting technologies that we've seen in the previous gens and stuff like that. And it really popped to me, and I really liked it. I thought it was really good, and something that it's I suppose the one thing about the show that I really liked throughout anyway was the fact that almost everything, if actually I believe everything, was you're playing this on Game Pass day one, which I thought was fantastic as well. So, me sitting here saying this now that I wasn't too keen on it, and now I'm really liking it, even if I didn't feel that way, I know that I could jump into it and try it out regardless. So I think that was also one of the kind of the background highlights of the show, is the fact that no matter what you thought of any title, you have the ability to give all of them a go at no extra cost to yourself, apart from having the subscription in the first instance, right? So
absolutely,
really impressed on this game. I really like the look of.
Yeah, no, I do too. And to be honest, I quite liked the look of the sort of the special abilities you have. I think that we'll probably see a little bit later in the clip. There's I think they kind of project like a lift or an elevator that's like a ghost one, and you sort of walk into it and you jump up over the air and you can start shooting down and stuff. Sorry, Scott, you was going to say something, mate.
I was going to say, I think we kind of touched, or Luke touched on it earlier, how he mentioned that he watched it back in all of its 4K glory after the fact. Bring back Mixer is all I'll say, because I had 4K live streaming. And I think this is actually one of the games that benefited quite a lot from that, from watching it back in 4K. I think it's certainly... it didn't look bad by any stretch or anything during the original showcase. I mean, like graphically, but I think it really highlighted how good the game does look when you watch it back in 4K.
I should add as well that I did watch the whole showcase on my phone, so I definitely haven't benefited from even then. I could see how good it looked, so okay. I definitely need to rewatch it as well.
Yeah, there's Luke, there's been a bit of clarification around that you can actually play this solo. Do you think this is actually going to hold up in solo mode, or do you think this is really, at its heart, a multiplayer, 4-player multiplayer?
Yeah, I think it's a bit difficult to tell without actually getting hands on with it. I think they're saying a lot of the right things about the solo experience, so they're not populating your solo experience with bots. It won't be you and 3 other bots. That's great. So that's cool. It's open world, which lends itself somewhat to open mission design, which in turn lends itself to solo play, which is good. They've shown stealth, so it's not like a Left 4 Dead, Back 4 Blood type experience anyway, which means that the single player element will be more engaging. So I guess we'll see in terms of their mission design. That's going to be the pivotal thing about how they're approaching that. If they've managed to balance, that well, so that if you're a single player person, it feels like a crafted single player game, and if you're playing 4-player co-op, it feels like that experience. That will be really good. That's going to be quite hard to do, but I think if there's any developer that could probably pull that off, it's someone like Arcane. So yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic about it. I do think that if you don't play multiplayer, you will miss out to some extent.
Yes.
If only because I think it would be a really interesting game to play where you have all 4 players with all the distinct abilities, and you're kind of bouncing off each other and planning missions around that. I think that strongholds and such. I think that could be really interesting and really fun. So I think the very best experience will probably take advantage of the multiplayer element, but I'm hoping it will still be very good on its own.
I think this trailer does quite a good job of demonstrating. In fact, probably on this exact bit, where you can sort of come at the same target from different angles, and like you say, use your abilities. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. So that's really good. I mean, yeah, my ultimate worry was that it was going to be, open world-ish, but mostly Left 4 Dead-like, in that, there was no option to take a different approach to a mission. It was just all guns blazing, use your abilities. They've shown that that's not the case, so that's really good as a result. So it makes the levels much more not the levels, but it makes the missions much more interesting. So yeah, and I thought it looked, I came into it not too high on it, and I came out of it a lot higher than I was. And that was through the strength of the presentation of it, and them trying to show you, okay, this is what I'll get. Plus, it's got loot. I love loot. So brilliant. Yeah, I think it'd be cool.
No, I think it did a really good job of selling it. I think lots of people. This is probably more by accident than design, but I don't think Xbox had done a particularly good job of explaining quite what it was going to be like. So I think, like you say, most people went into it with relatively low expectations and actually came away thinking, bloody hell, that actually looks really good. I'm certainly in that crowd, that's for sure. I think they have since said as well that game progression will only be for the host. So the 3 other protagonists, you won't necessarily be progressing if you're joining someone else's game. Is that correct? Has anyone else read that? I guess you kind of have to do that in this kind of game to some degree, don't you?
They did confirm that.
Yeah, because I tweeted about this yesterday actually, because there's been a lot of conversation around it online, and there's been a few people, whether you take them seriously or not is another matter, who basically just say, "Oh, the game's done for me. I'm not interested anymore." After they read this, which I've thought was a little unusual. Because it's an open world game with co-op, you kind of just jump into your friend's game with your character. Your character progression that you make during that session comes back with you, but your campaign or story progression does not. Can anyone here think of a co-op open world game that does it differently? Because a lot of people were like, "Oh, it's that I'm no longer interested because of that." And I was thinking, I can't actually think of any games that actually have a solution to that particular problem.
No, not really.
No, not off the top of my head. But then I don't play many, so...
I guess so, but it's, something like Elden Ring, for example. I didn't hear anyone complain about Elden Ring story progression or carrying through in co-op games. And a lot of co-op games that I've played are very are like that.
Yeah, I think Elden Ring gets a pass because Souls games have just always been like that. So I think what people were maybe hoping for Redfall is it would kind of buck that trend of games doing it. Because I do get the criticism that it's a bit annoying because, if you want to, say you're with a group of friends and you blast through half of the game, and then for whatever reason they stop playing or the host stops playing, then you've got to find a different game or effectively start again on someone else's game or your game to pick it back up. So I do think the game should somewhat recognize where you've reached in respect of any session, but I can't think of any games that do it off the top of my head either.
But, surely it's only really MMOs that can do that because the world is being hosted elsewhere. Because if you're joining someone else's game, you're kind of technically in their world, aren't you? Surely.
Yeah, exactly. And there are other examples of games from Microsoft. Actually, I've said on numerous occasions that the one thing that Grounded is lacking is persistent servers, because that's a game where you join your friend's game, and the progress you make in terms of the stuff you collect and the bases you build and the armor you create is kind of tied to that game. And if you want to play yourself and your friend isn't online, then you're out of luck. I know maybe Elden Ring, Dark Souls games aren't maybe the best examples, but Elden Ring's an example of an open world co-op RPG that can be played in co-op that has a similar problem. State of Decay, an example that comes to mind, is another example. I've not seen a co-op game, particularly an open world co-op game, that's actually had a solution to it. So I think the criticism is valid. I agree with that, but I just found it strange how people were kind of nitpicking on that particular point on Redfall when no co-op game, to my knowledge, has found a suitable solution to this particular problem. And the example that I used when I tweeted about it was, if you join somebody at at the end of the game and you complete the game, that's the only bit you play with your friend. How's the game meant to track that progress when you go back to your game? Have you now completed the game, even though you only did the final level? When you get to that point, does it just skip that bit because it's recognized you're done? It's obviously a complicated problem, and actually the interview, if you go back and read it if you're interested, that's the kind of thing that they discuss, I believe, in terms of the challenges that they've got and why they went for this solution. And I imagine that's why all open world co-op games go for this solution. I just found the reaction to be a little strange, and it's not something a criticism I've seen for any game in the past, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, no, I agree. And like you say, other than MMOs, it's kind of I was racking my brain when you said it. I can't think of a single one that allows you to do that. I'm just trying to think about Borderlands. Does Borderlands let you do that? It's been a long time since I played a Borderlands game.
I don't think so.
I don't believe it does. No.
Yeah. Nah. Well, let's not get bogged down, Matt, because we've got another one. And again, obviously, Luke, Scott, and myself, we have discussed this in the past, but we will certainly give Puxley an opportunity to discuss this one. I have a guess what this one might be.
I think it was probably the second announcement that followed.
No, it's not actually. No, it's not. But we are coming to that. So this is actually the last announcement. Stuff. Let's get the two big ones out of the way first, and then we can concentrate on everything else.
Okay, we're going to the end. Fine.
Yeah.
Do you want me to start now?
Well, yeah. Well, what did you think? Well, I guess I'll tell you what. Let me ask you a different question. Sorry, what was your expectations going in compared to what you came away with?
Regarding when they announced that Starfield was being shown, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, for starters, I know there are a lot of people in our Discord, I believe, who are saying that they were expecting a potential one other thing, like after this one, which I personally thought was a bit bizarre because I personally felt they made it clear that this was going to be the last announcement, and the reward for that is that it is an extended gameplay thing, and Todd Howard is kind of manning it up. It was definitely Fallout in space, which I thought looked quite cool. Yep. I don't think it looked particularly special graphics-wise. It does just look like Fallout in space to me, but that's not a bad thing necessarily, given the general complexity of the game about being in space and all different planets and stuff. It looks. I appreciate they're only showing a snippet, but I think the particular planet that they showed was very monochrome. There wasn't really much detail or things to see what was going on. It was kind of vastness, like what's on the screen right now, which it looks cool, but I'm not overly convinced in how much of this is meant to be fully explorable. I know they say the whole thing you can go anywhere. But I feel like in a way there may well be some trickery to this, and maybe it's not going to be as big as it probably seems. I hope I'm wrong in a way, but I just feel like it's otherwise if a lot of it's going to be procedurally generated in that way with a number of hand touched or handcrafted elements to it. I don't know. I feel like it might be a potential lot of blandness. And I remember a load of people seem to be excited for this on every other previous show. I always stated I can never understand the excitement because we never knew what it was. And seeing it now, yes, it's Fallout in space. It looks quite cool. But I have to admit, I wasn't super blown away by it, if I'm perfectly honest. Things like on the screen now, like the whole scanning system was quite cool. That's a new element that we haven't really seen too much of outside of things like the VAT system and stuff. The UI looks pretty spacey or pretty Fallouty at the same time. It all looks pretty generic, but again, that's not a bad thing for a game like this. The whole going into third person, like right now, again, that's nothing new. Showing an enemy off here, it kind of seemed, that's quite a cool looking creature, and a few more pop up in a minute, and that seems pretty normal. That's pretty fine. I did quite like it when we saw some of the shooting as well, and I think it was mentioned on the actual live show you guys, or the post show you guys did as well, that it was nice to not see a VAT system. Maybe one does exist, we don't know, but I'd like to believe from what we saw that one doesn't exist, and that it is just almost like a free shooting thing, which I thought would be quite cool. Looking at the farming stuff here as well, I know later on we do go on to seeing that you can do the shipbuilding and you can build a base and stuff, so that basically builds the elements for that, which I thought was okay. I know Fallout 4 had it, and if I'm perfectly honest, that kind of stuff, like the whole base building element, doesn't really interest me at all. I think it's good that it's there for loads of people out there that love doing that kind of thing, but it's not for me personally. I'd rather just wander out and explore and play the game in that way. and I suppose I'm probably speaking a bit too soon compared to the trailer we're watching now, but I know when it came onto the planets and what you can do and how the whole space system works. I think them talking about that you can't fly in and out of the planets directly, I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's just a whole other layer of complexity that they're already trying to deal with. I appreciate other games have done it, but I feel like their implementation here is maybe a bit different from things like No Man's Sky, which come to mind, and they have that kind of their own system of speeding out of the planet into the atmosphere and that kind of stuff. The one thing that I was kind of liking it until I got to the point when Todd Howard mentioned when he goes, "Oh, how many planets are there? Oh, there are 1,000 planets for you to explore over all of these different solar systems." And my immediate thought was, "Holy Christ, this seems like a massive time sink. I'm never going to be able to play all of this because I know there's going to be other stuff that I'm going to want to play." And none of us are in school anymore that have all that free time unless you absolutely love these games. So and I know they've also said that the story is meant to be 30 to 40 hours long. So I appreciate there's going to be kind of the main planets and the main elements to it. But then I feel like, well, what's the rest of it going to be? Like, are you telling me that there's going to be a load of side quests that may be some of the best content in the game, but I may not get to it because I have to get to planet 782 or some shit like that? I don't know. I kind of liked what I saw, but I'm also a bit worried that I don't know. I feel like I hope it turns out as great as as they say, but I feel like in a way we've heard all of these kind of things before, and the execution has never been quite as good, and it's got me a bit concerned that despite this being a Bethesda game and Bethesda are doing it, I feel like at launch it may not be quite the game we expect it to be, and it may need a lot of work afterwards, perhaps after a lot of player feedback. But again, I hope I'm wrong. But I liked what I saw. I wasn't blown away. But I'll definitely give it a go, I guess, is my my summary of all of that. The whole new cities thing they added. I know they've mentioned about this is some of the largest stuff they've ever done, which again, yeah, that's cool. They've mentioned that was it 4 or 6 main cities in the game or something like that, which kind of makes me also believe, if I'm correct in saying that, sorry, makes me think that actually a lot of the story elements are going to be in a very small, potentially small kind of location within X amount of solar systems in the game, and the rest of it is just, hey, players, you want to explore? Yeah, we've got all of this playground for you to go out and do stuff. But then, it's not impossible, but it's highly improbable that you're going to be able to handcraft a really good set of quests and all that kind of stuff over 1,000 different planets. So I'm a little bit worried that this, again, it may feel a bit bland in a lot of those cases where it's not fully handcrafted and it relies on a lot of procedural elements to it. But I sound like I'm being really negative. I don't mean to be. Because ultimately, yes, it's coming to Game Pass, and I will most likely boot it up day one, and I may well fall in love with it. But from what I saw now, I kind of like it, but I'm not too sure I'm going to love it yet.
Okay.
Sorry, that was a massive monologue. I apologize.
It was. I mean, you can take a breath now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm a Fallout fan, so this doesn't really put me off too much. Luke, we mentioned, I think, on our Discord, obviously this sort of game needs a very good shooting mechanic, and I know you're not necessarily a fan of the Fallout series. Do you kind of like what you see shooting mechanics-wise? I know it's difficult to tell just from a video without playing it, but like I say, with the absence of a VAT system, the shooting's going to have to hold up on its own, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and no, I don't think it looks particularly great.
Okay.
But look, I mean, Bethesda just aren't very good at that. / don't really focus on it. I suspect it's a bit of both. And I understand that. I think that's fine because the priority is elsewhere. The shoot, like, obviously combat's a pivotal part of all of their games, but it's the RPG, the broader RPG experience that is more important to them, which is absolutely fine. I think the Elder Scrolls stuff, which I love, gets away with it because you don't have any. I mean, you have, a bow and arrow occasionally and some magic, but everything else is, melee weapons, and they get away with it in that. It's enjoyable enough. Here, it looks pretty rubbish, like Fallout was in terms of its combat, but they've only shown a really small segment, so I'd be interested to see different weapons and different abilities. There might be stuff that makes it a bit more bearable, but yeah, I like the look of the shotgun. That dual
Yes,
barrel shotgun
yes.
was quite nice.
Yeah,
So yeah, they need to. I don't know. I feel like they need to just have a mind meld with id or something, and
Well.
like learn how to make good shooting mechanics. Because it's actually quite bizarre they've got to this point, with it around and not seemingly not improved their shooting.
Yeah,
so,
made the call. They've not made the call.
Yeah, they've not made the call. So yeah, it's not going to be a strong point of the game. I don't think anybody will find it to be a strong point of the game, but hopefully it's serviceable.
Yeah, no, fair point. And to be honest, I completely agree. Like I say, I love the Fallout games, and I got to be honest. As I was watching this, I was getting pangs of excitement, thinking that reminds me of Fallout and that whole Bethesda thing that I do like. And like you say, they are clunky, but I guess I personally forgive them for that because obviously I get enjoyment out of the rest of the game and some of the other aesthetics out of the game. I thought the colour palettes were a little bit dour, although there were some sort of quick sort of sizzle reel. Sort of screen captures of other planets you could go on, and they looked much sort of more lush and green and colourful and stuff. Scott, just quickly before we round this up, because I'm conscious we're spending a lot of time on just these two games. The Creation Engine, do you think it's holding up? It's probably the best it's ever looked, hasn't it? Obviously, character animation and facial animations are the best we've ever seen in the Creation Engine, but I'm guessing they still look a bit dated compared to other engines out there.
Yeah, I guess so, but the way I can look at it, it looks just like a Bethesda RPG, but bigger, better, and prettier. It's kind of look almost exactly how I expect it to look, if I'm being complete, not in a bad way. It just kind of, I've seen some criticisms of like graphics, and I thought it actually looked pretty good, especially considering some of the vast landscapes that they showed off. I thought it looked quite good, and obviously it's still got up to a year of polish left as well, which I think they have said that's basically what they're focusing on. So, I mean, is the Creation Engine still the right engine for them? Who knows? They keep using it, and if they keep crafting these great RPGs that have spans of or lifespans of or more than a decade, like Skyrim has, then I'm sure they're gonna keep using it. I guess the proof will be in the pudding when we come to play it at some point next year. Just one point I would like to make, though, is I do think they missed a trick not having Todd Howard on the extended showcase. I actually think the stuff that he spoke to, was it IGN, Luke? I think it was IGN, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, I think a lot of the stuff he spoke about with IGN would have been better suited in the extended showcase, because I came out of it feeling a little overwhelmed about what they had shown. But after listening or hearing or reading what Todd Howard had said with IGN, I felt a little bit better about it, just about the main story being a little bit shorter. I was expecting this to take me hundreds of hours. But yeah, we'll just have to see how it feels. Hopefully they can up the frame rate. I think that's the main thing technically I take away from it. Or hopefully that 60 FPS mode that I think they've said is going to be in is good. Obviously the PC MR guys probably won't have to worry about that too much. But us console guys, hopefully the 60 FPS mode holds up.
Digital Foundry have done some videos on it, and they did say it was, from what they've seen, it's running at a native 4K. So perhaps this is the sexy version. I'd be surprised if they wasn't running it on PC and couldn't get 4K and 60 out of it. But yeah, like you said, they've got another.
But this was probably on a PC.
Yeah, exactly.
As well.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's the thing. So.
Right, Luke, I've got a very quick question for you. As an Elder Scrolls fan, as I am, would you rather us be watching an Elder Scrolls 6 trailer right now rather than Starfield?
Yes and no. I think yes, because I'm a much bigger fan of that series. I really do love that. I think it would be interesting to see what they would do on this hardware. No, because it's great, I think, that they're building something new. I wouldn't want them to just repeat ad nauseum Elder Scrolls Fallout for all time. From a personal preference, I'd probably prefer to see Elder Scrolls here, but I'm not unhappy that Starfield's here instead, because I think, you know, it's clearly very ambitious and it's a new IP, you know, for them, which is great. And it could be marvelous. You know, it's certainly got a lot of potential. So let's see.
Yeah, no, interesting point. I just, you know, we're not going to have a new Elder Scrolls game for probably 2 whole generations, and now with an extra IP in their portfolio, yeah, it just gets a bit frustrating, really, because I love those games and I want them sooner than they're coming. I know we've got ESOL to tide us over, and the same for Fallout fans. You know, they've got Fallout 76 to tide them over as well. But, you know, with Bethesda juggling yet another quadruple A IP, let's call it, in terms of scale, yeah, you know, it just kind of delays.
Imagine how long the Fallout fans have to wait for Fallout 5. I mean,
yeah, exactly that.
You know, that's going to be a next gen game, I imagine. So, as in an actual next gen game, not this gen. So
that's why we need Avowed.
Yeah,
that's why we need Avowed. Avowed would have filled that Elder Scrolls hole quite nicely had it showed up.
Yeah.
Absolutely right. Thank you. Yes, well, thank you for that chat. Let's just have a quick chat. Indie Gamers in the house. Stubbs Gaming, BMG's here as well. Ash Review Games, Maseko. Chaps, thank you. Steve Watson, thank you so much for being here. Right, there's the 2 big games done. You know, those games are done to death. I kind of fully appreciate that. So let's move on and let's put one on the screen that Pucks thought I was going to put on next. Anyway, if I can find it, where is it? Here we go. Let's give this one a go.
Yeah. Is this what I think it is? Yes, it is.
Surprised to see this?
I was very surprised to see this here, because I think Indy and I had spoken about this in the past, I think, and Scott and Luke as well, about how this typically appears in the Nintendo Indie, not Nintendo Indie, but in the main Nintendo showcases and stuff. So to see it here was a very pleasant surprise. And I think we saw a bit more gameplay here, a few more movement elements to it, a few more enemies and bosses as well, which looked really good, and a few more combat mechanics, which I was really excited to see. And ultimately, this was very early on in the show when I don't think many of us really understood that, or maybe I wasn't quite listening at the beginning, but I wasn't fully aware that everything that would be shown by the end would be on Game Pass. So to see that appear at the end of this was super hype for me. I couldn't believe that everyone's going to be able to jump into this game. And for those that are maybe even on the fence about it, I mean, Hollow Knight's on the service now, and if you're playing that on Game Pass and have been a fan of it since, knowing that you can jump straight into this, I think is absolutely fantastic. And I was super excited to see all of this. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, funny enough, I was playing some Hollow Knight last night. I was playing some Hollow Knight last night, actually, just to get me in the mood. But yeah, and I think the big takeaway though was obviously everything on the show was coming within the next 12 months. So it seems like we're getting it
after that.
Yeah.
Well,
Asterix.
Yes, funny enough.
The interesting thing about. Sorry, go on, Flap.
No, well, I was going to say that, you know, our second topic is what does the second half of 2023 look like, and I suppose that kind of feeds into Luke's big asterisk there, with obviously a lot of slippage of some of the things that we think are coming in the first half of 2023 potentially.
Starfield and Redfall.
Wow.
There you go. Second half 2023. No.
Well, potentially.
Maybe Starfield, you never know.
Yeah, exactly.
Redfall, I'm a bit more confident about. But
the interesting thing about Silksong is it didn't put a date on the trailer. It came before Sarah Bond, I think, said her thing. Sarah Bond came on after Silksong. It didn't appear in the graphic that they showed at the end of the show of games that are going to be over the next 12 months. So I don't want to dash Indy's hopes or anything. But the only thing that we've seen that says it's coming in the next 12 months is actually obviously the theme, but there was a tweet by Xbox afterwards where I think someone said, "Oh, so you're telling me that Silksong's coming in the next 12 months?" And Xbox replied, and that's exactly what we said.
Yeah,
but they didn't show 2022 or 2023 on the trailer, which to be fair could just mean, you know, they're aiming maybe for late this year, but it might slip in the next. But it was also, like I say, quite obviously missing from their graphic, and I think that was a big omission. From that, so we'll see. Obviously, I hope it comes as soon as possible, especially for our good friend Indy.
I had this particular thought on this, that they say everything there is coming out in the next 12 months. So I couldn't help but feel that, well, when the the first original Hollow Knight, dare I say? Because I know that came out back in 2017 on PC and stuff, but when it came to consoles, especially Switch as well, it was kind of like a big thing when it was announced for Switch at the first, and that was around end of June time. So I had it in my mind that, if we're going to see this in the next 12 months, it's probably going to be June next year. Was my I feel like it's going to be a relatively long wait still, but I hope I'm wrong. But I have this horrible feeling, dare I say, that it's not going to be out until maybe late June next year at the earliest.
No, I guess so, but to be honest, at least it's back on the agenda, and we've seen it again since, because there was kind of a lot of radio silence around it, wasn't there? So at least it's back on the agenda to some degree. Whether it's going to disappear again for the next 3 to 6 months, who knows? But it was good to see it there. Okay, let's try another one. I'm sorry if you guys are seeing this on the screen. Like I say, I've lifted the curtain behind the magic. We didn't put this on the list, and I'm surprised we didn't. There was no date given for this. This is a Plague Tale Requiem, but apparently there is a Focus Entertainment game show or sort of spotlight happening where I think they're going to announce the date. I don't know if anyone else has picked up on that. I think it's the 23rd. So when's that? Next week sometime. Plague Tale. What do we make of that? Good game? Like it? Not like it?
I was pleasantly surprised to see this myself. I don't think any of us were expecting it. Graphically, it looks fantastic. If you've played the first game, I think you immediately kind of fall in love with the general gameplay, feel, mechanics and stuff. It's just almost like it's just an extension of the story, I guess, isn't it? And just a continuation. One thing it did remind me was I was watching it and realizing that I loved the first game. I then remembered that I actually never fully completed the first game. So
didn't you?
I was like, oh Christ, yeah, I've got to go back and actually finish it. So I'll be doing that relatively soon as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I've actually installed the first game off the back of this trailer because I thought this trailer was pretty good.
Have you not played it?
I've not played the first one.
Oh, wow.
No. And this trailer got me interested. Obviously, it's coming out this year. They at least said it was 2022. Yeah, the release date's coming a little bit later this month. So I actually reinstalled it after the showcase. I'm going to try to get to that first game before this one comes out.
Quite a diverse studio, aren't they, Sobo? Blight Sim and this. That's quite the portfolio, isn't it? Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to that. It should be a good game. And hopefully it's coming sooner rather than later. So cool. Yeah. Any last thoughts on that one, Luke?
No, I enjoyed the first game. This one looks great. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Any requests from anyone on chat? Give us any requests. If there's any trailers that were shown during the show, let us know. Because I can probably, if I haven't got them already, I can probably go and dig them out and we can run through them. Let's put one on. Let me choose one. In fact, no, panel. Have you got any requests that we can put on? Anything?
I've got one. If the chat don't come up with one immediately.
Go on.
So I can't remember the full title of it, but it was the something of Benedict Fox. Was it called?
Yeah. The Last Case of Benedict Fox.
Yeah, like I've not. I mean, unless this has come out before and been revealed somewhere, this has missed me.
No,
this is definitely past me. This is first time, is it? Okay, that's cool. Because I saw this and I was like, this looks interesting already. Because I remember seeing a load of articles as well prior to this about, yes, they really like the show, but a lot of the AAA's kind of going on that similar angle, which is true. But it's a safe bet when you're spending millions and millions on games where. I feel like we're seeing more and more of the indie variants, aren't we? Of just being a bit more different and exploring different ideas, different art styles, different themes and stuff. And this just looked absolutely fantastic for me. I mean, when I saw it was a Metroidvania as well, I just knew that it's going to be a great game with hopefully tons of exploration, secrets, various abilities, different biomes and stuff by the looks of it as well. And even right now, where you've got these different dark monochrome areas, it's kind of not horror, but kind of like creepy vibes to it. And I thought it just looked really good. And I'm so looking forward to this. This was definitely one of my top picks of the show for me.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks. It's very Lovecraftian. This.
Yes.
In terms of the tentacle stuff, all that kind of Cthulhu type things going on. So yeah, and when I saw it, it was one of my highlights of the show. I think looks really cool, different, creative. So yeah, I was impressed by it. But it looked brilliant.
Play it day one with Game Pass.
Fantastic. Right. Well, let's remove that. Oh, sorry. Do some of the wizardry behind the scenes here. We have had a couple of requests come in, but let's talk about some of the things that wasn't there. And I think one of the things that I was surprised about was the Marcus Phoenix collection. Do we think that just doesn't exist? Was that a vicious and wild rumor, do you think?
Don't know. I think maybe I heard someone say, might be in Grub or someone else, that they didn't think it was real.
Jess Corden.
Was it Jess Corden? Yeah.
Yeah, so him and Special Nick from Xbox here are basically on opposite ends of the spectrum, where Nick's still convinced it's coming. He didn't ever say it was necessarily going to be at this show. He just said it was coming and then speculated, if it's coming, then it might be at this show. But Jez Corden's kind of like, well, look, it's not from what he's been told. So, but we did speculate when we first discussed it. It's like, who would make it? And I think that point still stands. It's not going to be the coalition themselves. So maybe that's the problem. Maybe they just don't have anyone to do it. Maybe they want to, but they don't necessarily have the dev resource or the third party to actually go in and do it. So I wasn't that surprised that it didn't show up, to be perfectly honest. And that's obviously why we put it in maybe, because it was kind of like a bit of a wild card, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I don't know. I just had a feeling it was going to be there. It wasn't based on anything whatsoever, to be honest. I had absolutely no right to think that. I was just absolutely surprised when it wasn't. And like you say, no one actually confirmed that it was going to be there. But yeah, I guess let's do it while we're here. The second half of 2023. Looking at this looking at this list here, and particularly of the ones that obviously weren't at the showcase that we got wrong, that we thought were going to be in there definitely. What off this list do we think could be still coming in the second half of 2023? Is Avowed going to be the holiday title for 2023? Do you think? How's this going to pan out for next year and the holiday season? Do you think?
Oh, that's a tough question, I think. I think a number of us will probably have to say things like, it'd be cool to see Fable late next year, but unless we see something really good and tangible, I kind of feel that maybe that'll be pushed into 2024. But that's based on nothing but just pure gut feel, I guess, just from how things are generally going. Things like Perfect Dark, I don't think we're going to see for a long time. The Banjo-Kazooie one's interesting, because I know we kind of put it in there almost for shits and giggles, I guess. But there were some potential, well, I say rumors, dare I say, but there were some like things online saying that devs had heard something going on with Banjo-Kazooie, whether or not it's a remake or remaster. It might not be a game at all, but apparently, according to a load of dev circles at GDC and all that kind of stuff, Banjo does keep coming up. So maybe there's something in the works to do with that, and maybe we'll see that sometime early next year. Not released, I mean, not in terms of having it revealed to us, but I don't know. I don't see many of these things, like the new stuff at least anyway. I don't know if we'll see them late next year. I think it'd be optimistic to see a lot of them late next year, but interested to see what you guys think.
Stubbed in the chat just said Starfield is holiday 23.
That's your holiday game.
Yeah, I know he's probably half joking, but I hope he's wrong. Yeah, Luke, go on. I mean, what left on this list could be dropping for holiday next year? It doesn't. I still can't really think of anything.
I think Hellblade might drop toward the end of next year. I think. I mean, it's been in dev for a fair chunk of time. They've already showed a gameplay demo of it. Now, obviously, that's just a single segment of the game, so we don't actually know where they are behind the scenes on it. But I feel like it could make the end of next year. Contraband maybe could hit there. Again, we don't really know much about where that is in its development. Avowed's a bit of a wild card one, but I feel like maybe we would have heard a little bit more. I mean, all we've had on that is a CG teaser, so yeah, I don't know. definitely not anything like Fable or Perfect Dark or Indiana Jones. Sorry, BMG, that's not coming. I'm just looking quickly through the list. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of this stuff here that's just not.
That's
It's
what
just
worries
so
me.
far away.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's
That's
just
exactly.
I mean, take me back to 2020. I would have said Fable 2023. I'll absolutely. And now I'm like, well, God knows, it could be 2025. Like, I literally don't know because, Everwild, I would have said back in 2020. Yeah, probably a 2023 game. So, but clearly these things are they're just miles away. They're just
That's how it feels,
miles
isn't it?
away.
Mm.
Yeah. So, if I were to put money on it, maybe Contraband and Hellblade I'd go for.
Okay.
But it's anyone's guess. Wolfenstein, I don't even know if Wolfenstein exists at this point. I really don't know where that game is. If Machine Games are working on it, no idea. That could be a wild card, but again, no idea if it even exists.
Scott?
Wandering Dutch reckons it might be what do you say? Sorry. No, sorry, not Wandering Dutch. Indie Gamer says reckons Hellblade might be the closest one, in his opinion, to being released out of the lot.
That's my gut feeling on it, that if there was any that you'd say could potentially hit that end of next year slot, it would be...
Not Avowed? You don't think Avowed might be in the...
I don't know. I mean, maybe it is, but what do we have to go on?
Well,
One CG
exactly.
teaser.
Yeah, that's all we've had. Absolutely.
That's all we have. So, and if that's the metric with which we have to judge these things, that seems like it. I mean, we've only had a CG teaser for Fable. That seems like it's a 2045 game at this rate. So, God knows where Avowed is. But Avowed, I feel like it's 2024.
Right. Okay. No, fair point. Yeah, it's interesting. Scott, any advances on that? Because I've got to be honest, I when I was looking through, I was thinking, well, I don't really fancy any of these for holiday next year, really.
Hellblade's the obvious one. I think, I'm pretty sure that'll be their big fall game. That might be them for next year, though, in terms of new releases. I think something Halo will come late next year, whether it be the Battle Royale or some campaign DLC. But the thing is if they're going to continue this this methodology or whatever of only showing games that are 12 months out, then we're not going to know until next June, realistically, are we? So it'll be interesting sort of if they do have any other shows between now and then that might give us those hints. I was pretty confident we'd see Avowed, so I'll maybe put that into the mix. But then there was some reporting from Jason Schreier that I completely missed because I was going dark in the run up to the show, where he's talking about the project having some a reboot in 2020, and whether that maybe pushes it further out, I don't know. But I think Hellblade's pretty much the one I would be confident in saying is coming. And then I'll still probably say Avowed will launch, and that'll be their big four games next year. And then, like I say, something new from Halo, and then Perfect Dark, Fable, etc. for 2024.
Without being controversial, is Hellblade 2 a console seller? Is that really what they want as their holiday game?
Well, I don't really think they're bothered about console sellers anymore. I think they're just bothered about
thing of the past,
remaining subscribed to Game Pass, and I think Hellblade's probably a reason that a lot of people, I say a lot, some people would. So, I think it's just cadence of projects now rather than massive, huge draws necessarily. I think obviously certain games will do that, like Starfield, I'm sure will result in an uptick of new subscribers, and there are other games in the future that will do that. Hellblade's probably not that type of game, but I'm sure it will attract a lot of people because it's got a good word of mouth from the first game. So
that's true. Yeah. And obviously the first game was multi-format as well, so lots of people have had a chance to play it. So
question for you all quickly, gents, and same for chat. If we sit here January 2024 and Xbox first party have released Redfall, Starfield, Avowed, and Hellblade, how are you thinking about the year?
And Forza.
Forza. And Forza. Sorry. Yeah. So those 5 games. I think as a personally speaking, as a Game Pass subscriber,
well, compared to this
I
year,
would agree. And you're talking about system sales flap. I guess the way to look at it with Xbox now is subscription retention sellers in a weird way. If they schedule those over the course of the year, I think that's absolutely reason to stay subscribed to Game Pass for that entire year. And then if they can do something similar for the year after, what you're doing is you're essentially forcing people to stay. Well, obviously not force them, but you're giving them a very, very good reason for staying subscribed to Game Pass if that's what they deliver. And that's just the first party. Never mind all the third party stuff that's on top of it, and the updates to the existing games as well. And I think that's what they're going for, and that's where they've really struggled. Whether they'll do it next year or not is an entirely different matter, but it's just getting to that regular cadence of getting these games out over the course of the year that gives people a reason to subscribe and ultimately stay subscribed.
No, absolutely, and like you say, Netflix are not only were they the yardstick for the subscription services in the first place, but unfortunately they're now also the yardstick of how not to do it and making sure you keep on top of your content and then the subscribers subscribed, shall we say? But let's do a request. I think this was BMG. What do we make of this? Graphically a bit different.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised, I think, when I saw it at first. I wasn't expecting them to go full on. It's basically Romanesque medieval art, kind of a blend of different styles of medieval art. It's quite unique. So I didn't expect them to, blend the art direction as much as they have into where the game is set and the time period, which I think is actually really clever. Because it looks like medieval, like you would see on kind of medieval scripture and stuff. It very much looks like that. So I think that's super cool. I think this was interesting that they were talking, because the rumors were it was very Disco Elysium-esque, or that's kind of what the focus was. And Josh Sawyer came out and actually said he gets why that comparison was made, but it's not really that. It's more of the text popped up, a narrative adventure game. So, Disco Elysium's a bit more RPG-esque, or very RPG-esque in how you kind of go about things. This doesn't look like it'll be like that. But I think it looks really cool and definitely really interesting. And I think I think Josh Sawyer also said, which I found really interesting, is obviously the premise of the game is that you're investigating a series of murders over 30 years, but apparently you don't. The game doesn't actually tell you who the murderer is.
Oh wow! Whatever.
So there's no canon murderer in the game. It's kind of on you to try and figure it out. And then once you come to a conclusion, you can accuse the person you think in the game, and there are consequences, I suppose, to that. So that was quite interesting, a bit open-ended. So it looks cool, and I'm glad Obsidian keep making these kind of weird projects. I think it's really good because this is more like a game with like indie sensibilities, you know what I mean? A bit like how Grounded was, it's a bit more creative, a bit different. So, and there's no risk really because it just goes on Game Pass. So
yes, absolutely, and Game Pass has many benefits, and that's just one of them. Like you say, these little pet projects can take hold and take off, hopefully. Literally because of that. Just Puck Scott, just very quickly, any thoughts on Pensman, your kind of game?
My immediate thoughts on this was that I'm not too bothered about it at all.
Okay.
But from watching it, I feel like I may need to actually play it myself to maybe get into the gameplay, perhaps. But from what I watched, I didn't really care at all for it personally. But maybe I just didn't quite understand what it was about.
No, fair dues.
For me, if I listen to Luke talk about it, or if I read the stuff that Josh Sawyer was talking about it, and don't see the actual video of the game, I'm really interested. And I do take Luke's point that they've nailed the aesthetic that they've probably gone for. Just the art style I found really
Yeah, I don't
surprising
particularly
and
like it.
off-putting.
Yeah.
But everything I've heard of the game, so if I just close my eyes there while Luke was describing it, I was like, oh yeah, I'm into this. But then I open my eyes and I see it and I'm like, oh okay, I'm out again. But it's one of those things where, because it's in Game Pass, I'll try if the story hooks me enough that I'm willing to push through that, or the art style grabs me while playing it, then great. Otherwise, I'll just drop it and just admit it's not for me. But people are unbelievably excited because of Josh Sawyer being behind it. So I'm sure it'll be a good game for people who like that genre.
Yeah, no, fair point. Paro M in the chat just said Penta interests me due to Josh Sawyer previously being the narrative lead of Baldur's Gate, Fallout New Vegas, and Pillars of Eternity. I think Steve Watson asked earlier on as well what's happened with GoldenEye. Apologies.
People need to stop talking about this.
Yeah, I'm going to say, is that something that's ever going to appear? And if it does, will it be Xbox or will it be Nintendo? Do you not think it's going to appear, Luke?
I probably will, but I couldn't give a shit. Could not give a shit about it. If it's just going to be a port of the Xbox Live Arcade version, essentially, and correct me if I'm wrong, Scott, but I think that's what it's rumored to be, then why people are excited about that, I don't know, because it's just
I've got no idea, Luke.
I just don't understand. I mean, I played GoldenEye back in the day, not the day it came out, but a couple of years after, and it was great, and I loved it, and I was a big James Bond fan then anyway, but it was fantastic. But that game now in 2022, 2023, people will jump on it really excited for the nostalgia, and they will play it and they will be like, because it doesn't work anymore. The mechanics, it won't feel good to play. It will feel garbage to play now. If this was like a remake people were talking about, like a fully ground up remakes, that would be really exciting. I'd be really into that. I think that would be great. But it's not. It's just a port of an Xbox Live Arcade game, which of itself was just an up-resed N64 title, essentially. So, I'm not particularly excited about it. I think some people, if it comes to Game Pass, I think that's great, but it doesn't excite me at all.
You think
getting annoyed?
You think the rose-tinted spectacles might fall off very quickly?
Oh, they'll fly off. They will absolutely fly off when like people don't realize how bad these games are to control. In fact, just go and play the old Perfect Dark, as in the OG.
Oh, I did. It was awful. In fact, I got about 10 minutes in. Yeah.
It's just that. Yeah. So it's not going to be good.
It's the controls. None of the controls are what we're used to nowadays.
I tweeted about that, Luke, because I was like, I do not understand the excitement. I think some people thought it was a brand new remake, which I could understand the excitement for that, but it's not. If it's released, it's the Xbox Live Arcade game that didn't get released that they're finally going to release, and I don't see why there's much excitement for that. What I will say is people did reply to me when I tweeted my bemusement about it, and a few people said, like, look, I go back and play it from time to time and it still holds up, which again I found particularly surprising. But I think what it is, it's a really powerful nostalgia play. I've got really fond memories of playing GoldenEye, and to be perfectly honest, I've got zero interest in going back and playing it and ruining those memories, or a remaster. If it was a remake, great. But if I go from playing Halo Infinite to GoldenEye, I just don't. I just don't see how that transition will be anything other than horrific for my memories of playing GoldenEye. So I imagine it comes probably is it August, whenever the anniversary allegedly is. There's a documentary or something coming out late this month, I think it is. It'll probably come to Switch and Xbox, and then people will very quickly forget about it, I imagine.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, let's move on to one of the bigger announcements of the showcase, and probably a surprise to quite a few. Persona 5, one of the things that we got wrong.
Not just 5 though, Flat.
Well, 3, 4, and 5.
4 and 5.
What do we make of this? Is this a massive deal for Xbox? And to be honest, let's talk about Kojima while we're here as well. Is this Xbox's sort of nod to the Japanese market, do you think, and trying to appease the Japanese market to some degree?
100%.
Yeah,
100%.
I don't think so.
you don't think so?
Ah.
No, I have a different view of people on this because I think Scott, Pokes, if you want to go first, that's fine.
No, I really
want
want to hear your point there, Luke. It's
Yeah, go for it.
interesting that your
So-
perspective.
Yeah, I think the Persona stuff, less so the Persona stuff, but the Kojima stuff, these are announcements they're not targeted towards the Japanese market, they're targeted towards the Western market. Persona's, a huge game in the West. It's very popular in Japan as well. Kojima's games typically much more popular in the West than Japan. So it's more of the thing to be like, okay, we recognize that our fan base, particularly with Atlas, they've wanted Persona games. They want more Japanese games in general. So here's a lot of that. It's not, I don't think it's a response to the Japanese market, because the Japanese market or the Eastern market in general is totally different in terms of gamescape. A lot of people think, Japanese games, maybe Japanese people really love them. But typically a lot of Japanese games are highly westernized. They're meant for bigger audiences. So I don't think these are plays to try and help Xbox do well or better in the market. Because frankly, they've been doing a little better anyway in terms of console sales, but they're never going to do particularly well in places like Japan. Because guess what does well in Japan? Mobile, or in terms of devices at least, mobile, Switch does really well there. But the gamescape's just completely different. So I think this is a bigger deal for, fans in the West that have wanted these titles, particular Persona. And I think, they'll keep doing that. You saw there was a Koei Tecmo Team Ninja announcement as well coming to Game Pass. That was really cool, I thought. What it might do is it might bolster Japanese developer publisher support a bit more for Xbox, to see bigger publishers like Atlas working with them, to see Kojima working with them. But I don't think it's anything that's going to really shift the needle in terms of, or that they're looking at it in terms of shifting the needle of, we want more Japanese players in our ecosystem. I think they recognise that it's going to take a very long time to even get any kind of momentum at all there, if they ever do. So, and that's not just Xbox, by the way. Even PlayStation don't now do particularly amazingly in the Japanese market, because it's a completely different market. So, that's my thought, but I'd be interested in everybody else's.
Well, it's interesting because we said on Boxenberger's show that it's not necessarily about these particular games, but setting a precedent for the future, perhaps to some degree.
Yeah,
Scott.
That was kind of my position. I think that was kind of my position. I've said this in the past when we discussed Persona and Final Fantasy VII Remake in particular, which is just to say a call out on what Luke said there. I agree entirely with pretty much everything that Luke said there. The main issue I think that they're going to have is, and I think it might be Stubbs mentioned in the chat, is these are old games. They're making a play to have more Japanese content on Game Pass in particular, which I think is great, especially if their route into that market is cloud, and that's, I guess, their mobile angle for that particular mobile market. Maybe not Japan specifically, but the Asian market. Yeah. But the challenge that they've got is these are games that, if you were interested in Persona in those markets, you've probably already played them.
That.
Same with Final Fantasy VII Remake. And what I'm hoping with this, and why I think it could potentially be a big play, is similar to maybe what happened with Yakuza. Is this means Persona 6 comes to Game Pass, not necessarily Game Pass day one, but Xbox. The challenge at the moment is just, first of all, getting the content. Now that they're starting to get some of that content, the second challenge is getting it at the same time the other platforms do. Because until they start getting this Japanese content at the same time Switch does or PlayStation does, they don't have a chance, because gamers in those markets who want to play these games will have the other platform. So I think Luke's absolutely right. This is more tailored towards the Western market, people like myself who want to play these games on an Xbox. But I think it's part of a bigger push to get more of that content on their platform to appeal to those markets longer term, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it feels like it's part of a potential larger strategy, perhaps, and like you say, not necessarily just about these games. I guess. Pux, have you ever played a Persona game? What's your take on these?
No, I haven't, but I've heard good things about it, and I believe my cousin's played these actually, and he really Persona 5 at least, and he's a big fan of it. And when I said 100% earlier, I think maybe I misheard the question because I completely agree with what Luke was saying. That I don't think these games are necessarily for the Japanese market, but it's more for Xbox to have those Japanese titles on the service for their Western audiences to enjoy it as well as everyone. But yeah, do I see it as a bit of a win? Yes, I suppose in terms of them going into their trying to get those Japanese developers and publishers titles on the service. I think it's good to have that mix on there. I'm intrigued to try Persona 5 because I have heard really good things about it, and similar to the Yakuza games, I've heard a lot of people say that the kind of the rendition of Japan is very real in that the streets and alleys and all the rest of it of the game are very much one-to-one to the local areas of which the game was developed, I believe, or something like that. So I'll be quite interested to play from that perspective as well. But no, I've never played one. I'm not quite sure what to expect, but I appreciate it's all wacky Japanese anime type stuff, which I do like playing. So
Okay, no, fair dues.
yeah, I'll definitely give it a go.
Okay, let's move on to a different one. I think this caught quite a few people's eye as well.
This was Cocoon.
Yes, correct.
Oh, I really like the look of this.
Yeah.
This is cool. Really cool.
Another highlight of mine.
What I really love about this one, above all that, I mean, it looks really cool. Like, you know, gameplay looks really unique, etc., etc. It kind of looks like a puzzler more than anything. But what I really love with this is this world and everything within it. Like, it feels so distinctly alien in a way I think other games don't really nail when they have alien worlds. You know, they feel kind of vaguely, you know, human-esque. You know, kind of like Earth. This one just feels and looks like it's an actual alien world, and I think that's a really difficult thing to actually do. So I really, really appreciate it, and I think it gives the game a lot of strength in terms of its visual appearance.
I like
the music.
I love the puzzling elements. They all look quite interesting. You know, things that we haven't quite seen before. Yeah, Pux, this is right up your alley as well, then.
Oh, definitely, 100%. Either way, like some of that gameplay, I know it's not one-to-one or anything like that, but I kind of vaguely got is it last? It's called The Last Door. It is Last Door, isn't it? With the bird.
Death's Door.
Death's Door. Sorry, well, how can I forget? Jesus. Yeah, I kind of got vibes of that from watching that, which I thought looked really cool. I appreciate it's not the same, but it's just the general vibe and the feel, but in a really good way. I really like the look of this. And I agree with what Luke was saying as well. It looks very alien, but in a very good way. And even just like little sound effects as well, like your little dung beetle type thing. That's like you can really hear him clinking and clanking on the different surfaces and stuff. And just the atmosphere, I think, was pulled off very well in this short snippet that we got. So no, I'm really looking forward to this one.
It reminded me of an indie game that was out last year. It came to Game Pass. I can't quite remember what it was called. I'm going to struggle to describe it. It was a very simple-esque sort of game. You kind of hovered around, and in between levels you'd see like these huge sort of, I don't know, like a dinosaur-struck giraffe thing kind of walking past. I'm not doing it any justice. I can't remember its name. I'll have to look it up.
Is that Omno?
That's it. Yes, that's it. Sorry, it gave me those sort of vibes at the very beginning as well. Kind of, I don't know. It's just sort of the puzzle elements. Don't know.
I know what you mean when you say that, actually, because this game almost looks relaxing in a similar way to Omno does too. I think. But yeah, this was a highlight for me as well. And there was a couple of indie games that really stood out in this show, actually. And this is certainly one of them.
For anyone that's played it as well, I also kind of got some. Anyone played Creature in the Well? So I kind of got some vibes of that in this, in terms of the weird kind of, I don't know, strange. I don't mean empty in a bad way, but empty in that the atmosphere looks like, you don't know what's going on. It looks like there's like a hidden secret and that kind of thing. But no, Creature in the Well vibes I kind of got as well. Which is
never played that. Never even heard of it.
Oh, fair enough. I think it was on Game Pass for a time.
Oh wow!
But like ages ago, yeah.
I missed that one. What else should we go? Oh, let's go for this one. This will be interesting. This will spark some debate, I think, because I think we're all feeling different things about this. I'll keep dipping in and out of this game, and I think others do as well. As
the extended showcase did this game much better service than the main showcase, in my opinion, at least. I think ultimately the problem with this game is I think it's a really hard game to show off at a showcase. I just think it's difficult to convey, what you're doing, and obviously it's very narrative driven, and you don't want to give too much away about the narrative as well. I really wasn't into this during the showcase, but like I say, the extended showcase gave me a much better impression of the game, and I'll be trying it out. I'm curious to see particularly how the multiplayer element of it works. I wonder if this will be a good game that me and my partner could sit down and play together, where we're making decisions together and she can actually interact with the game as well. I think they showed you being able to play on your phone as well as with the controller. So I'm actually more looking forward to it now after the extended showcase than the original.
Definitely got a unique art style to it. Yeah, Luke. I think you said you'd liked it. It's one of those games for me that every now and again I think, no, I don't know if it's for me, and then something I see something slightly different about it. It's like, oh, actually no, that does look pretty cool.
Ooh, like is a strong word.
I didn't get them vibes from Luke.
Yeah, I think the thing is, and I've said this multiple times, but I'll say it again because I think it bears worth repeating. That the problem with this game is that it relies completely on its narrative. If its narrative isn't good, the game isn't good. And I'd hasten to call it a game as such. It's more like an interactive graphic novel. That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
And I think the story, Scott's absolutely right. It's such a hard game to show, which is why it keeps annoying me that they keep showing it, because it doesn't do it any favors showing it again and again. Because what are you going to show? You're not going to show, oh, here's this new area where you can explore, because the game is just basically pictures on a screen.
Yeah.
So it's getting to Deathloop levels of annoyance for me, first of all, but I keep seeing it.
Yeah, no, I get that.
And secondly, it's not a good game to show. It doesn't show well. So just leave it. Stop showing it. And I think what I also have a problem with is that the studio heads were talking about the kind of things that have inspired this, and they were talking about things like Fargo and other great TV shows, and I think that's a really great aspiration, but some of the dialogue and voice acting in this hasn't really impressed me very much. So I'm kind of like like I'm not getting great vibes from the story or the way it's delivered, and that's kind of a bit of a death knell for the game. So I will play it, and I'll be really keen to see reception when it releases, because I'm definitely going to look at that first before I even touch it. But I can see why people are excited for it. And normally, a narrative focused game, I'm all for that. But this one, with the real lack of things you can actually do in the game anyway, like there's nothing to save it other than its story. It's going to depend on how good the story is.
Funny you should say that. There was a trailer that I saw, and like you said, there have been many. There was one that had some particular voice acting in it. It was goddamn awful, proper amateur stuff, and it was like, whoa.
It was. It reminds me in a roundabout different way of how I felt about The Last Stop when that was being shown. Okay. Which didn't show well at all to me. That was more of a an actual game. You can actually do things in that. But that's the kind of feel I get from it, and I'd hope it's not that, and it's better than that. I know some people like The Last Stop, but it's just a weird one. It's just a weird one that they keep showing, and I mean it's July, so it'll be out soon, and then we'll know for sure.
Yeah, because it did also appear at the Tribeca Game Showcase as well, didn't it, Luke?
It did.
And then
it did, and I can totally get why.
Yeah. Funny you mentioned The Last Stop. I know what you mean by that. I actually enjoyed The Last Stop. I thought it
Yeah.
played better than the actual trailers and what they showed off made it seem. I was actually pretty down on The Last Stop after one of the last trailers that they showed. I thought that was a really bad show, but playing it, I thought it was better. So, but this is purely just you'll know when you play it whether you like it. I don't think any showing of this at these types of showcases is unfortunately going to do it any justice, which I think Luke's absolutely right. Is maybe a question why it keeps showing up, but it's a first party game. It's published by Xbox, so they're going to highlight it, especially in a year when they don't have an awful lot else, which is probably unfortunate for both As Dusk Falls and Pentiment, because those are the only two other first party games that are coming this year.
Yeah, no, completely agree. Well, we haven't got too long to wait to see, have we? July 19th. But, right, Pax, I've got another one for you. I'm not sure how you're going to take this. This was a request earlier on as well. Game I'm looking forward to.
Oh, is this Ravenlock?
Yes.
Yeah, I was intrigued by it. This is the... Oh, what's that other game?
Echo Generation.
Yeah, I've not actually played that yet.
Haven't you? Oh, man, am
no,
I the only one that's played it?
It kind of passed me. I know it's on Game Pass, but it kind of passed me
Yeah.
by. I never really got time to jump on it, and I was playing other stuff as per usual. But no, I saw this one, and I got good vibes from it. I quite like the... I like that it's not super voxel anymore. Like I think that's maybe kind of what put me off of Echo Generation.
Okay.
I know it's one of those things where almost like very basic 8-bit pixel art games I appreciate for people making games for fun or to learn. It's fine, but when you're like big games that are coming out on these big services, I feel like I've seen so much of them that I'm not fussed about playing it because I just don't like the way it looks. And voxel graphics, like quite heavy voxel graphics, have a similar vibe for me at the moment. But this is kind of gone away from that a little bit, where yes, it's still blocky, but it's not massive. It's kind of used as a kind of a what's the word? Like half a visual style. So it's not all the same thing. It's a mixture, which I really like the look of. And it doesn't look like it's... Did it look like it was turn-based gameplay? I can't quite remember. Like in terms of the battle systems and that, was it turn-based or?
Yes.
No,
yeah,
I
it
don't
was.
think it.
No,
Not this one. I don't think was.
what did you mean, Echo Generation?
No, I was talking about this one. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. No, we don't know, do we? I don't think so. No, it doesn't look like it is.
No,
So
I
thought you meant
Well, I
that.
thought we saw
I think
some
this is
combat. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a bit with a boss that makes it look more like a third-person sort of action game. I don't know if we'll see it coming up, but there's certainly a point where you're facing off from a boss. Apologies, it's not the streams are very good for us, so I can't see from here. But yeah, I think this bit here that I'm looking at on the actual stream where you're fighting a boss, it certainly looks like a third-person action game.
Yeah. No, I definitely like the look of this. And visually, I do like the mixture of more detailed voxel graphics and just general kind of detailed environments rather than just all cubes, which I think looks really cool. And I think that's maybe what put me off of Echo Generation as well, that there's a lot of turn-based games that I'm not a fan of turn-based combat for the most part. Like, again, Final Fantasies and stuff are a bit of an exception because the story is usually quite fantastic, but most other games I find turn-based just to be annoying, so I don't tend to bother with it. But no, I do like the look of this one.
To believe it or not, it's actually Echo Generation that got me into Yakuza Like a Dragon. Because of the turn-based, because of the turn-based
That's quite a
combat.
jump.
Well, you say that. This is, I mean, to be honest, Echo Generations, I think we said it on Boxenberg, it's got quite a weak turn-based system, so it was kind of very simple to get into and get used to. So at that point, once I'd kind of got into it and didn't mind it so much, I thought I'd give Yakuza Like a Dragon a go and absolutely loved it. So this was a bit of a gateway game for me. Well, Echo Generation was on some...
Wow, fair
account.
enough.
Yeah, it's a bit weird, isn't it? I know, but there we go. Luke, Scott, any interest in this whatsoever?
Not so much for me, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I'll try it because I think it looks quite quirky, but I'm not, eagerly counting down the days.
Fair dues.
Can I maybe suggest one to pick up next?
Go for it.
Okay, that I think a lot of people like the look of, which was Flintlock.
Do I have Flintlock? Of course, I have Flintlock.
Yes.
I wasn't super taken with this.
Oh, okay,
personally.
interesting.
When the gods first
What
Yeah, what
out of
aspect?
interest was it that didn't grab you out?
Maybe I haven't watched it again, I must admit, so maybe it will change as I watch this now. But like environmentally, it looks interesting, as I say about a lot of these games, because I generally like most things I see. But I don't know that I don't want to say the game. The combat looked quite generic, dare I say. I appreciate it's all different spells and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know, something about it just felt a bit too primitive in a way. I feel like I was expecting more from it, but maybe it's just the trailer itself. Like maybe it plays fantastically, but I just didn't get that kind of feel from it. I can't really explain it. I don't feel like it just vibed with me very well.
That's fair. Interestingly, I thought the combat was one of the aspects that I thought looked really good. Pucks. Obviously, the combination of like the melee attacks, as well as having the gun, as well as having the pet that's doing attacks at the same time. I actually thought the combat looked rather interesting. That's one of the things that attracted us to
I
it,
must
to be
admit,
honest.
I did like the inclusion of the whole pet thing, and that it actually plays a role in the combat as well when you get to kind of teleport around them. I like that side of it, but yeah, like the shooting around and I don't know. Maybe I was being too harsh on it. From bear in mind, this is based on my very first perspective of it.
No, that's fair. If that's obviously how you feel, mate. I think a lot of people were pleasantly surprised by the look of this game. I think a lot of people really like the look of it. Flap, how are you feeling on this one?
Yeah, we've seen it a few times before, haven't we? I was just trying to think where else we've seen it.
Oh, really? I thought this was the first time we've
Is
seen it.
I'm just trying to think
I
of
don't
this.
recall seeing it.
Really, I'm just wondering if there's something else that looks very similar then, because I seem to remember. Perhaps chat, let us know. Is this the first time we've seen this game? Yeah, it's kind of certainly my game. Again, you know, like we're saying with all Game Pass games, I will certainly give it my my time. Yeah, it looks like it's the sort of thing that I could certainly get into. It's just have another.
Yeah, this was the first time it had been shown.
Oh, okay.
By the looks of things, just reading the Xbox Wire article. It's from the creators of Ashen.
I could have sworn we'd seen something like this similar before. Wow.
I suppose in a way, maybe that's why I got the kind of generic-y vibes, because part of me I wasn't too sure if I'd seen stuff like it, like seen this before, but I feel like I've seen stuff very similar to it at least. So yeah, maybe that's why it didn't vibe with me, I guess. But as I say, you know, maybe I just have to have it in my hands and try it that way. I mean, that's usually the best way to, to see if I like it.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's just do a quick shout out to the chat. Yeah, Lady Firefox said yes, it's the first time. Yeah, my mistake. I have no. I'll have to go through some trailers and see what I was mixing it up with. I've got it very clear in my mind. I just can't remember what it's called. But yeah, so Lady Firefox, thanks for being here. Parks is here. Pyro M, like I said, we've done quite a few of the shout outs before. But yeah, thanks for being here, everyone. I hope you're enjoying this so far. Like I say, if there's any requests for stuff that we haven't shown video wise, let us know. We'll chat through it. Is this on your radar, Luke?
Yeah, definitely. I really like the look of this, actually. I think it's by the Ashen devs.
Yes.
And which I quite enjoyed. So it looks like this is pretty big, you know, in terms of scope and kind of, you know, visual target, etc. So yeah, I think it looks really cool. The combat looks like it's an evolution of the Ashen stuff, like a pretty big evolution of it, actually. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it a lot.
That's cool. Okay, let's do one that was actually in the extended showcase, because there were some things in the extended showcase that I don't think were in the main one, this being one of them. This is Valheim coming to Game Pass.
Yeah.
Have you played Valheim?
I haven't. I've heard very good things, though.
Yeah, me too. So it's
I
a
got
kind
this
of a.
day one, actually, me and my friend.
Did you? So it's an open world
PC,
survival
yeah.
type game.
Yeah, very good. It's also got like PlayStation 1 type graphics as well. Like, in terms of like the textures and stuff, I mean. So it's got a really cool, interesting vibe and art style to it, which is really good fun. And it is difficult as well. Like, you really have to kind of learn them. It just throws you in as well, which is quite nice. So
Yes.
I mean, there are like it's like a crow type thing, which almost acts like your tutorial beacon, but it
Okay.
doesn't guide you. It kind of appears when you do something for the first time, and then it clears off, and then you just have to figure the rest out on your own. So, but when you're playing with a group of people, it's such good fun, and the boss battles are not quite Dark Souls difficult, but they are tough. Like you have to have reserves and stuff ready and plan for it, which is, if you're into that kind of thing, it's really good.
Yeah, I know a few people that play this, and they absolutely adore just some of the wacky moments that happen just out of nowhere with this type of game. So I think it coming to Game Pass is pretty cool, actually. Yeah, like I said, that was one of the few things that were actually at the extended showcase that wasn't at the main showcase. Obviously, it's just
Saying Parksy in the chat as well, just saying that how this game kind of blew up when it first came out, which was quite insane.
yeah.
And
Absolutely.
I feel like in a way, I mean, yes, it's a great game, but I think the other driver for it is when people found out that the game was mostly made by one person or one to two people. Like, what, as in one person was almost part time, and obviously then the main guy making it. And when you look at the scale of the game, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Okay, let's do something else. Let's go with this one. So was this Project Indus? I can't remember now.
Yeah.
Yes.
So is this the main showcase one or the extended showcase one?
This is the
Right,
main
I don't know the
showcase
name.
one, I believe.
Yeah. I think this is another game that suffered. Oh, sorry, maybe not. I think it suffered. I didn't think it showed particularly well in the showcase because it didn't really show much. But I think at least the extended showcase give you a better idea of the game. So I think it certainly showed better during the extended showcase.
In terms of gameplay, I didn't see the extended one. Does it play like Civilization type thing, or like what's it equivalent to in terms of gameplay or genre?
Yeah, it's just like a Civ, Age of Empires type.
Yeah, okay.
Type stuff, yeah.
But obviously, this trailer is purely CG. But I've said this before, and I said this about the Summer Games Fest. I just don't think strategy games show particularly well at these showcases.
No.
I think Stormgate had that exact same problem. And actually, Aura and Stormgate had literally the same problem. Is they both came with CG trailers that weren't particularly good, that didn't show off their game, because you can't really show gameplay of a strategy game during the showcase because it doesn't really do much. Like I say, that's why I think the extended showcase was just a little better at trying to understand what the game is.
A few other videos that were out there. Gunfire Reborn. It's not going to set the world on fire, but it looks quite fun.
No, yeah, that's kind of all it is for me as well. In a way, looks fun, but you know, nothing mind blowing or anything. But you know, as for an indie title, I think pretty decent. From that perspective, I think very good effort. It looks like good fun. Being a small team,
Good
I assume,
effort.
But,
Slow clap.
is that harsh?
Slow clap.
Is that harsh?
Just a curt head nod.
Actually, can we put on? I've got a request actually.
Go on.
Unless you've got something lined up. The Rick and Morty game, Higher Life, I believe it's called.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to say I'm not a Rick and Morty fan, but I haven't watched them. I've seen clips of them. They look fun. I just haven't given myself the time to watch them.
What year do you live in?
I know. I've seen clips. I've seen like the
I've
odd
not
episode,
watched Rick and
but-
Morty either.
Oh, for
I don't like it. I don't like the voices. I
Is it
don't
the
like
humour?
the humor. Yeah, it's not for me. So this game, for similar reasons, didn't really do much for me either.
But this is kind of what I was going to say though. That I hadn't seen much of it, but I don't dislike it by any means. But when I was watching it, I thought it looked really interesting. Like,
Yeah, I really like the look of this.
The art style and the take on it, I thought was really good. And obviously, you can tell that the alien gun thing is obviously the voice of Morty, isn't it, of the main show?
and Rick.
Oh, it does both, does he? Oh, okay.
Yeah, Justin Roiland does. both,
Graphically,
yeah.
this is quite impressive, isn't it? What do you think?
Yeah, it looks nice. I mean, this is like one of my favorite games from the whole showcase.
Was it?
Funnily enough, I mean, I'm a big Justin Roiland, Rick and Morty fan anyway, so obviously that type of stuff is going to appeal to me. But then this just looked like crazy in a way that games usually don't. You know what I mean? Like, it's just so unique.
Yeah.
And it reminded me of Stranger's Wrath, Oddworld.
Okay.
Just kind of this weird first-person world. Lorne Lanning has a bit of a similar sense of humor, I guess, without the high-pitched multi voices. So yeah, I just thought it was cool. And then they talked about it a bit more on the extended showcase. And it's basically a bounty hunter game. You've got 6 targets, but you can choose like whichever target you want, whenever you want, and they exist in like separate worlds essentially. So you can just pick one, and you get an instant portal to their world. You go in, there's stuff to do, go and hunt them, come back out, and then rinse and repeat. But they're all very unique worlds and all that stuff. So I just thought it looked really, really different, really cool.
Yeah.
And yeah, graphically it was actually really impressive. I was really impressed by it. So
Also, really like the. Oh, sorry, go on, Scott.
I was just going to say the orange gun, it just creeped us out. If you can go back to it, Flap. The one that's got like babies in it or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
I love what he says when he talks about the reloading.
This one here, I'm like, this creeped me out. This bit, it's just the eyes and the teeth. What I will say, Luke, though, is again, it's another game that I think showed better at the extended showcase. The trailer didn't do much for us, but actually hearing from the devs, I thought the devs came across really well.
Yeah, I did actually.
But hearing a few things about how each game each person who plays through the game, depending on what, because is it right? You only pick one gun, and that's kind of like your companion gun for the game. Or am I mistaken?
I think you can unlock more. So you start off with one, and then you will gradually unlock more as you go along, and you can kind of switch them in and out. But you'll start off with one, basically.
Yeah, I think they said something like how each person's kind of playthrough will be slightly different depending on which gun you choose the most, because obviously that'll change things like the dialogue that you'll have, which I thought was interesting. But I just found the initial trailer really almost jarring in a way, because it was so vibrant. To take in, isn't it? It did make me think I'd maybe just had some acid prior to the show.
I like all the guns have their own personality as well. That was kind of the big sticking point for me that I really liked. That, as Luke was saying, you don't really see that kind of thing really, like that, not recently anyway. So I thought it was really good fun to see how it's just just being absolutely wild with it and rolling with it, and actually it works because of the universe. And the monster designs look fantastic as well. Like, I thought they looked brilliant.
We've got a couple more. Let's just do a couple more, then we'll kind of round up perhaps.
I can't even remember. Oh, this was Lightyear Frontier.
Oh, yeah. I was just about to say that. Look, I can't even remember this, but that's right.
I remember seeing this. I think it looks really nice, actually. I don't exactly know what it. When I saw
Simulator?
it kind of. It kind of reminded me. I don't know why I got this vibe from what they were showing, but it kind of reminded me of Outer Wilds, I
can see why you say that.
Not the crafting stuff necessarily, or the farming stuff, or anything like that, but the kind of
vibe.
You're on this planet. Yeah, just the vibe, but on this planet, and then there's a mystery on it, and kind of, you're going about doing other stuff and figuring it all out, and then there's obviously this kind of farming element attached onto it, or base building element. I just thought it looked really interesting, so I'll definitely try it out.
Yeah, I think for me, just those farming type games just aren't for me, unfortunately. I actually think it looks really, really nice. I like the art style. I think it looks pretty. The music was unbelievably relaxing. I think people who are into that type of game will probably like this, but it's just unfortunately not for me.
Yeah.
Is this Ereban?
It is.
Yeah, so I haven't seen an awful lot of people talking about this game, actually, and I really like the look of this.
The forgotten child.
It was kind of one of the games we kind of skipped over during our showcase podcast with Boxenberger, actually. And yeah, I've not seen an awful lot of people talking about it, but I actually really, really like look of this personally. I don't know what you guys thought.
When I first saw this, as the trailer was going on, I originally thought it would be like, I think I get this right. Is it the Akami games, like the Ninja Shadow stuff? And I looked at this thinking, oh, is this Akami? I think it's Akami. I might be wrong, but something like that. But I thought this would be like Akami 3 or something. No, it turns out it wasn't that at all. So.
Yeah, I'm just rewatching again. Like I say, yeah, I really like the look of it.
They will not drag me into their light. Because their light is a lie.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to playing that. Really looking forward to that.
Any interest in this?
Nope.
Really?
Yeah, I saw Battle Royale and thought,
Yeah.
Probably not. It looked fun, but nothing I'd
Can anyone
spend
name a
awful lot of time.
good multiplayer melee game?
Yeah. For Honor was.
That's the only thing.
Yeah,
but I believe
that's
they
the
made
only
it,
one
yeah.
that I've heard. I really don't think multiplayer melee games are particularly good. Especially ones that are seemingly as fast paced as this. It seems really popular though. I think they said over 10 million players.
Yeah.
On PC alone. So
I must admit,
It's
I'd
obviously
never even
popular.
heard of this before until I saw it on the showcase.
No, apparently it's incredibly popular, but they say that about all of these kind of games. But yeah, I'd never heard of it either.
I mean, I'd heard of it when it first came out, but just like I say, the prospect of a multiplayer melee game, never mind a battle royale one, just didn't really appeal. Was this the one where they showed the character creator where they made Phil Spencer in the extended showcase?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it
which
was. Yeah, that was weird, wasn't it?
Which was pretty funny. Not for me. I mean, I might give it a try because I do like multiplayer games to properly make that judgment. But I do think those types of games are unbelievably difficult to get right.
Yeah.
One for Luke.
Yep. There it is. They actually had a stream earlier today. I don't know if anybody saw that. Probably not.
No.
But
I saw I didn't watch it, but I caught up on everything afterwards. I'm actually disappointed I missed it because I'm really looking forward to this.
Yeah, some good changes coming. They've confirmed scrapping loot boxes. It will all be Battle Pass now, which is great. They unveiled a bit more of the Junker Queen hero. And they confirmed their kind of roadmap as well. So I think 3 new heroes on launch, which is Sojourn, Junker Queen, and a new support hero that they've not announced yet, but they've teased in the trailer. 6 new maps, new game mode, so that's all coming at launch. And then I think December they said more new maps, another new hero, plus obviously those cosmetics and all that kind of guffing. And then in 2023 just more of all of that. So and that's when the PvE mode will come as well. So
Is the PvE going to be part of the free to play side of things, Luke?
I don't know, because they haven't really spoken. I mean, they've not said either way. My gut feeling is they'll charge for it, to be honest. If it's a kind of story focused, which it looks like it is. I mean, we've seen some missions from it. So, but I don't know. I don't know what model they're going to go for with that. I think it's quite an interesting question. But then it's Activision Blizzard, isn't it? So the answer will be whatever gets you money, basically.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know, but I mean, I'm really excited for it. I played the beta; that was really good. So, yeah, let's.
I've signed up to the new beta that
yes.
I think they announced today. So if anyone's interested, check that out.
That's right. End of the month.
That's on console.
Everything. Yep.
Yeah, so really looking forward to that. And we don't necessarily have to play it flap because it was quite a long presentation. But I think just on the subject of Activision Blizzard, the star of the show for me still is Diablo 4. Don't necessarily say we don't need to play it, but Diablo 4 just really looked incredible. I'm still unbelievably excited for that game. It's made me want to go back to Diablo 3, but at the same time, I think I might just hold off.
I'm really intrigued to see the open world aspect of it as well. Like open world with the typical camera angle and just the general feel and play of Diablo. I think it's going to be so cool. I can just picture the world feeling much more vast just because of the fact you don't have that control of what you're seeing, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of aspects that they should. I thought just the overall demonstration, whether you like the game or not, I just thought it was a fantastic demonstration of a game. It's almost like what any demonstration should be like, to be honest. Start off with a really cool trailer and then actually went into the actual gameplay itself and got people really excited for it. I don't think they could have shown it off any better. And I think the sentiment that I've seen from a lot of people is, obviously a lot of people are excited for this, but I think a lot of people came away having had their expectations exceeded, and never mind just met, which I think is always a good thing.
Did they confirm after the show that the game wouldn't be littered with like cosmetics you can purchase and all this kind of stuff? Because I've heard Diablo Immortals has been riddled with all sorts of capture mechanics, dare I say, and people had a lot of issues with, will this be the same? Did they confirm all the cases?
Yeah, so they confirmed. So the issue with Diablo Immortal essentially is that once you get to the end game, to actually start to really ramp up your build, you essentially need certain types of, I think, gems. I don't mean a currency, I mean actual like objects in the game called gems that you socket.
Yeah. I mean, if you played 3, I think it's just
it's basically
or similar
system. Yeah. And to get those, you basically need to spend a ridiculous amount of money. And there are also other things you have to spend money on. With 4, they came out afterwards and said the only microtransaction elements there will be is 1, cosmetics, and 2, paid expansions for when they do those down the line. So, essentially at launch, if we had to take them at their word, it will just be, if you want certain maybe transmog stuff or, particular trinkets or whatever visually with no stats, then you can buy those. But which is a lot better solution than Immortals, which is ridiculous. So
cool. Okay, well,
how is yourself, Flap? Are you fixed on a Diablo 4? Is that your kind of thing?
I've never played a Diablo game, but I hear nothing but great things about them, so I'm excited to jump in for the first time on Game Pass. Yeah, no, absolutely.
Check out 3 Flap. I'm pretty sure you can get it cheap. So if you're interested, check it out. It's I'd be happy to play some multiplayer with you.
Oh, okay, that's cool. I'll jump on.
Mate, so
if you got it on PC, I'll jump on Steam and get it then.
I've got it on Xbox. I don't think it's crossplay though, is it?
Oh, isn't it? Okay.
I don't believe it is.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Well, I can get it on Xbox. No, that's cool.
But just on that point, one of the good things about 4 is it does have crossplay, which is really good.
Yeah. No, exactly. Okay, so to sort of play us out, kind of, we're just going to run over the Forza Motorsport thing, but so what are our impressions? What are our impressions of the show in general? Do we like the kind of the format? How did we feel about the 12-month window that they put on there, and the fact that the extension showcase was nothing new, just literally more of what we'd already seen in the main showcase? Scott, we'll go with you first, mate. What was your overall impression?
Yeah, so I've not changed too much since my initial impression immediately after the show, Flap. I think, first of all, I really liked the presentation. I like the idea of only showing games that are targeting release over the next 12 months. And I actually hope they stick with it. I think obviously next year we will obviously have that expectation going in. So we will not maybe have the expectations that we had this time going into the show. I think it is just more about messaging. If they're going to do that, then tell us ahead of time. If they're not going to do that, tell us ahead of time. And it allows us to predict, as people who do podcasts, but just as a fan, it just allows me to set my expectations accordingly. But overall, I thought the presentation was probably the best that they've done. Obviously, we've always said we want more gameplay. We got an absolute boatload of gameplay. The pacing was good. I think there was a few low bits, but you don't do a 90-minute show without a few low bits. We've obviously skipped through like the Bethesda section where they covered Fallout 76 and ESO and things like that. But but I also think just the diversity and variety in the stuff that they showed was really good. And I actually really like the extended showcase as well. Just as a different vibe, hearing more from the developers, and again, your expectations for that are completely different going into that show. So I thought it was good. My score of 6.5 that I give, I think, still stands personally, just because I went in there expecting something different, which I don't necessarily think is my fault, because they, I think, quite easily could have come out and sort of set everyone's expectations ahead of time. I think if I was to judge it just on, if they'd come out ahead of the show and said, look, it's only going to be showing games in the next 12 months, I would probably bump that up to sort of a 8.5, if my expectations were appropriate. So yeah, like I said, overall I thought it was a good showing over the two shows. Question for you guys though: do you think they'll stick with this show for next year? Do you not think that would be really weird if this year they do that, the next year they go back to what they've done before?
Well, I think personally, Microsoft are quite what's the word? They listen to their community quite a lot, and I think there's been a little bit of like, well, where's all of the other games kind of comments going on? And they're in a tough place that they're never actually going to deliver what we all want, because that's kind of impossible. So I don't think they will. I think Stubbs put in the chat they'll probably go for 18 months next time. But to be honest, that for me would kind of be the sweet spot, I think, in some regards, because obviously you could shoehorn in some of the other games, but I guess also going forwards, don't forget that they will have more first-party titles to show off, I guess, hopefully, even if they do 12 months. But yeah, don't know. I'm interested to hear the others. Luke, let's go to you next, mate.
Am I commenting on Scott's question?
If you want.
Specifically, or yeah, I think. Well, I think I'll go on my thoughts on the showcase first. Yeah, I think, like Scott, my number hasn't changed. So I gave it a 7.5. Sorry, I didn't. That's a lie. I gave it a 7. And it's not going any higher than that, even on a rewatch. I mean, it's. I think that, like, again, as Scott said, if they would have announced this beforehand and then I would have watched the show, my score would have been higher, because I think there was tons of stuff that looked great. Looked excellent, and that I'm really interested in. One of the things, I don't even like track races, but I was like, oh, this looks really good, Forza looks really, really good. So, all of that stuff looked pretty fantastic. And I'm excited about the next 12 months, which I think was clearly the aim, right? And that's because of, a mix of their first party and Game Pass, etc. But I don't like how arbitrary they just locked it to 12 months. And if you're going to do it, you have to. You can't do that at the beginning of the show or in the showcase. You have to do it before to manage expectations. And I think then, getting on to Scott's point, going forward, I do think it'd be weird if they then change tact, but I think that they do need to change tact, because I really don't like that kind of arbitrary locking of when we're going to show games and stuff. I don't think anybody really wants that, because what people want is for a showcase that, one, gives them gameplay. You can do that while also showing, things in the future.
Yep.
And showing things that are close to release. You can easily do that. Two, people want these showcases to, have surprises, have, big reveals. And sometimes a lot of that big reveal stuff is going to be stuff that's further away than 12 months, 18 months. It might be a few years. Now, I'm not saying do a Fable and announce it, seemingly when God knows when, like way, way, way too early, and then just go dark on it. But I think, like, Sony kind of nailed this, like, in terms of how they do their shows, where, you'll have, like, I don't know, the last big PlayStation show, you opened up with Knights of the Old Republic remake, right? And then you have, like, Wolverine, stuff that's far away, but it gets you really excited about what's coming. And Microsoft have so many studios that they could do that and get people really excited, even if it's just a CG trailer in and amongst gameplay and near releases and all that stuff. They just need to get the balance right. So I hope that that's what they do next time, and I really hope that that's what they do, because it doesn't seem like they're going to really break their track of doing one big showcase a year and not really, obviously they'll have some presence at the Game Awards and stuff, and they might they'll definitely show something. But I think to wait a year to then get the next 12 months is kind of, it doesn't make you very excited for the showcase. If you're going to wait for that long, that's absolutely fine, but you've got to bring like some big announcements and some big surprises of things that maybe aren't coming anytime soon but are in the pipeline. So those are my thoughts on it. But yeah, it's still a 7. It was a good show. I wish they just didn't have the 12-month thing.
Yeah, I completely agree. Puxley, you saw it kind of after the event. We were all kind of riding the hype wave after the show and stuff. So when you saw it kind of at your own leisure, what was your take on the format and the presentation?
Overall, I liked it. I don't know if I'd want to see it every year. I feel like it could, I feel like it's the start of something new, perhaps. And I know, I think Sarah Bond had almost teased afterwards on Twitter about, is it Project Moorcroft, I believe? And the general concept was to be that the kind of the showcase demos that you get on the show floor, they're kind of building a platform where us as the players in, our internet-connected world and COVID-riddled world, whatever word she used, that kind of, general message, is that, we all as gamers get to enjoy that showcase floor experience as well by having access to these demos. So I feel like, based on that as well, from what I've seen, I feel like they'll probably expand on this platform, and then introducing that aspect of the demos type showcase stuff to the platform in the future.
Mm-hmm.
And I know they was talking about how they're going to do the, kind of make it like a limited time thing. I know she briefly went over, they're still kind of figuring out how it's fully going to work and how they're going to be able to manage it all, etc., etc. But I think ultimately I quite liked the format. I think it does need a bit of tuning. I definitely basically mirror what everyone else has said. I feel like I wouldn't want to always see 12-month cycles, because then we won't always see things which are a bit further out, which we can start getting excited for. Especially like, I suppose like last year, right, when it felt like, or early this year, sorry, when it felt like Xbox were having a very, very dry spell beforehand. We wasn't really sure what was coming, because all of the good stuff that we know is coming is so far out. It's like, what does the now look like? And yes, they kind of filled that void now, which is great, but I feel like there needs to be an in-between of things which are coming out relatively soon and stuff which is a bit further out, but things that we'd like to show off now so you can also look forward to it. And I think it just gives the Xbox platform a bit more of a leg to stand on when it's, of just the general content that's coming. There's always going to be a stream of stuff, and knowing roughly what's coming, I think, is a good thing. As well as, obviously, surprises. We all love a surprise, so that should obviously be in there somewhere as well. But I think a mix, as everyone else has said, would be good for me. But overall, I enjoyed it. And my personal rating was about a 7 to 7.5 for me overall. I didn't think it was a bad show. And I think, I think Scott said it a number of times as well, that maybe my expectations of what to see were a bit different from what was shown. But I tried to, I think I did quite well personally to temper my own expectations and kind of went in relatively blind and just, I'll take it as it comes and see what happens. And ultimately, I enjoyed it. I felt there's a few things missing, but I think it was a good showing. I really enjoyed it. And yeah, I do hope they just improve on it next year or in the future.
Yep, no, completely agree. I mean, my score was a 7.5. I think a mix of both is absolutely perfect. I think they could do the first half of the show saying, this is what's coming in the next 12 months to get us excited short term. And then perhaps, a little bit further out in the show, this is what we've got coming further down the line, perhaps a little bit of a roadmap of the stuff that's further off than 12 months. I also like the fact when they declare that, the next, all of these games are going to be in Game Pass or things like that. I know they're pretty good at declaring what's going to be in Games Pass, but I also think that's quite a very key thing, because like you say, I think everyone assumed that the things that were shown in the showcase were going to be Game Pass, and they weren't necessarily. I think Diablo 4 being an example of that. So it would have been nice perhaps to know that everything's going to be in Game Pass, or have just different sections where the next lot's going to be in 12 months. But I think overall it was a good showcase. Didn't get to see everything I wanted to. In fact, I got to see not very much of what I wanted to, in all honesty. But that doesn't necessarily make it a bad showcase, because there was lots of stuff in there that was a nice surprise. We're going to wrap the show up there, everyone. So, panel, thank you very much. It's always a pleasure. Go on.
Can I just quickly ask a question to everyone and chat as well? Who's going to be watching the Final Fantasy VII 25th anniversary show in the next hour? because you never know that we might get the Final Fantasy VII remake on Xbox, or if the rumors are true.
No,
Was it
they would have had that.
You won't.
They'd have had that if they were doing it. They'd have had that in the Xbox showcase, I think.
Yeah,
But
possibly.
You will get a Crisis Core remaster, and you will love it.
I've heard this. Yeah.
And that will come to Xbox, but
Yes,
the other
that
ones
will, that's what I'm
won't,
saying.
because that is peak Square. Just that's released the thing that's related to the thing that everyone wants, but not the thing that everybody wants on Xbox.
I will be watching it, and I'm excited for hopefully a tease of part 2 of the remake. But I think holding out hope for an Xbox Final Fantasy VII remake port at this point's a bit of a futile exercise. In fact, I think the rumor is that the only thing that'll announce in relation to that is a Steam port of Final Fantasy VII remake.
I just don't see a world where.
knackers.
Yeah, I don't see a world where they've had a deal to bring Final Fantasy VII Remake to Xbox and it didn't show alongside Persona at the Xbox showcase. I think if they were going to do it, they would have done it then. So
yeah, imagine the triple Final Fantasy, Kojima, and Persona, all in the same sort of showcase. Wow. But yes, okay. Well, like I say, thank you, panel, for being here. Always a pleasure, as always. Chat, you've been fantastic. It's always great doing these things. We like kind of taking our time and going back over the shows. So, yeah, thanks for being here. We'll hopefully be around next Thursday. I don't think I can make next Thursday, so we'll see if we're going to do a show. We'll keep an eye on the socials to see if we're able to do a Sunday show, but we'll let you know in good advance, in good time for that. If you're new to the channel, please hit the like, share and subscribe buttons, and also if you want to carry on the conversations after the show, join our Discord. The link is in the description below. But for that, thank you everyone. I hope you have a safe week, safe gaming, enjoy what you're doing, and we will see you on the next one.
Destined for greatness, born to be great, ahead of the game.